Go and wear your clothes. You are following me to Lagos today.
But Mommy said we shouldn't leave the house. That we should wait for her. Why don't you stay and wait for her? You can tell her I went with Daddy to Lagos. But she puts you in charge.
Hopefully, your mommy comes back before we go. Otherwise, we just have to leave message for her.
My father died when I was 20 months old. So in a way, he's an absent father, not through any fault of his own, but there is an absence in my life in terms of fatherhood. And I think what we really wanted to do was give this notion some context, right? In some instances, fathers are absent through choices that they make. In some instances, it's choices they don't get to make. In some instances, it's because of their passing. In some instances, they have other families. There's so much nuance. Even in that little breakdown I gave you, there's so many reasons why absence could be. But I think what we kept on seeing is that it always was, things were always like leaned towards the more negative, the more like stereotypical. And we wanted to just offer a balance of like, maybe this is some context as to why a working class father would be absent, you know? Like you have your family in the countryside, you come and find money in the city, and those two things can't exist at the same time. So we were really trying to just give context and nuances to that. I'm quite an empathetic person. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And I think in someone who's had the privilege of knowing my mother all the time, I think there's always been this obsession with my father. And I think we really wanted, also becoming men, and my brother became a father during the film, I think it was important to try and question and hold a certain type of masculinity accountable for ourselves, for the women in our lives, for other men, just for us to be able to see ourselves and acknowledge that like some things are out of our control, but sometimes we have agency in how we choose to show up in the world.
Your work is semi-autobiographical, right? And you wrote this film with your brother, right?
Yes, correct.
How is it for you to work in autofiction? Is that something that comes naturally to a creative process, or something you look for?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it's not something that comes naturally for me. I think I always struggled with the idea of how to write a film. I always struggle with the idea of, even when I write something, if it feels believable. But I think, like you said, I work with my brother, and my brother, he loves to read, he loves to write, he's a rapper and a musician. So he's always been very good with words, whereas I think I'm much better with pictures. Working with him gives me the sort of security to know that I'm working with someone who has the strengths maybe where I have the weaknesses, and maybe vice versa. I think because of our relationship, because of the fact that we're really close, we have a trust and a way that we encourage each other to work.
The story of the film is it's heavy, but I don't feel that it's a violent film or something. So how was it for you to work this complex story of the children?
Sure. Thank you for saying that. I mean, I think a lot of what we try to do in making the film is we know that we're making something that can be somewhat triggering for people who lived through that experience, but we feel a sense of duty to tell as much of a truth as possible. When it comes to the children, I think there was also an incentive to not to give them too much information, not to overwhelm them with the subject matter or the thematics of the film, just to see that they understood what they had to do for any given scene. Even though it's semi-autobiographical, we wanted their personalities to shine through. They're really like they are as characters in real life. But yeah, it was quite important that we surrounded them with a lot of maternal figures offset as well in all the different departments. Their mother was with us a lot of the time, and they had a minder a lot of the time. So we really tried to ensure that their engagement in the whole process was about fun and play and enjoying, and not to burden them too much with the sort of, more emotional and heavy aspects of the script.
How did you decide to shoot those dance scenes and like when the military appears?
I think the North Star for the way we shoot is trying to make sure it's very effective, both for the style of the shot and the length of the shot, what we're filming as well. Our choices reflect the emotions of what we're trying to do at any given time, because we're shooting on film. We don't have an opportunity to just shoot and try and test a lot of things. So there's a lot of practice and a lot of rehearsal. But fundamentally, we wanted to stay close to faces. I love 16mm because it's imperfect. It's not like 35 where you get like the whole frame. Super 16 is a little bit dirty, it's a little bit grainy. You know, it kind of feels dreamy in some instances. So that allows us to play with all these themes and ideas that we'd been discussing prior. But mainly we wanted to stay close to faces. We wanted to stay close to people. Because this is children's perspective, we think also the way children see things is curious, you know, and if we stay at their level, we can see the ants, the insects, you know, the lizards, the turtles, everything. But when they're looking up, they focus on the faces of the characters that they're looking at, because, you know, Nigerian faces or faces in general of different generations, they tell such a story depending on how they look. They tell a story of whether someone's had a hard life or someone looks joyful or sad. So yeah, it was a lot of that. And I also have to say, my cinematographer, Jermaine Edwards, also did an absolutely incredible job in helping and collaborating to decide how we frame everything.
You had some a lot of success with your short film too, like Lizard.
Yes, correct.
And My Father's Shadow was the first Nigerian film to selected to Cannes.
Official selection, yes.
How do you relate the success of your films, and do you think there are some particular aspects of your work that connect to that?
Sure. I mean, really good question. I think it's a few different things, right? I think one is it's not an overnight success. I think I've been working in film in some capacity for over 15 years. I think for 6 years, I worked under different directors and photographers as an apprentice. And then I started making films with my friends. And I had different jobs. You know, I worked in different jobs, not always in film, in an office, different sort of jobs. And I think all those experiences made me a little bit more secure in what I was trying to say as a filmmaker. And I think in addition to that, the other thing is like, I really love people. I love collaborating. I love creative people. I love people who have an enthusiasm about life. And I love trying to find a way to work together without controlling them. I think those two things maybe are quite crucial to my success specifically. Because like, for example, my brother wrote the film. I can't take all the success for that, you know. My cinematographer photographed the film. You know, it's not really me. It's all collaboration, and it's all in the fact that we've worked together before. We've worked in different circumstances. I've also made short films that you might not have seen and are a lot less successful. And even in those moments, it's still a learning, you know. Everything is a learning. Everything equates to something. So I think my success, or the success of those two films, Lizard and My Father's Shadow, is mainly due to collaboration, working with people I really trust. I think timing also plays a really important aspect, and luck. And then I would probably just say like being prepared, having 15 years worth of getting ready to make something.
Do you already know what's your next project?
I'd like to think so, yes. So me and my brother, we have this running joke is that we know like the next 7 projects we would love to make. But sometimes it really depends on what feels more urgent, you know? I think My Father's Shadow wasn't the original feature film idea, but we decided, I feel like My Father's Shadow feels more important to us. So let's pursue that because we'll write it quickly. I know that the objective was writing it quickly, but we just wanted to work on something that just inspired us, that made us hungry to write. So I think the next one, yeah, we know, but we're always open to maybe that could change. Yeah.